You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Another episode of the official podcast of Minor League Baseball arriving in your ear canals, bouncing through the tunnels of your brain, off your eardrums, into your cerebral cortex. I don't know how hearing works. But along with Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill in New York City, my name is Tyler Mon. Can either of you give a better description of how hearing works?
No, I should say this is not an audiology podcast.
We're going to just start playing those little...
Yeah, we are definitely not experts
when you hear
on how sound works. Although that made me think, Tyler, because I did a race over the weekend and I saw a lot of people wearing these new over-the-ear headphones that don't go in the ear.
Yeah.
I think they work off again, not an expert. I have no idea. I've been meaning to look this up. I think they work on vibrations. So they essentially send the sound through your skull almost. I don't know. I'm
Wait, what? Oh, those I don't think I've seen at all.
Because there's no earpiece to them. They go over the ear.
Oh, we are living.
They don't go
future.
in the ear. So I think you use them to run in, so you can still hear the environment around. Like if you hear a car coming up behind you or something, you can still hear that. But it's still coming. It's very confusing.
Somebody email us podcast@milb.com and explain what is happening with.
Get in the comments on how these things work, because I'm very interested.
Please let us know. Ben, what's going on? How are you?
Yeah, I prefer not to think about such things. I mean, I feel like, even in a society that's increasingly secular, I just feel like we're surrounded by miracles at all times and things we truly cannot fathom or understand. So I just try to live in the unknowing and just embrace the fact that I will never know and don't need to know. And it's a miracle to be alive and to experience the gift of sound and the gift of speech, and any sense that we're privy to is a gift.
Well, we have peaked 2 minutes and 30 seconds into this week's episode of the show before the show, because we're not going to get any more poignant than that. But I agree. That's a good way to approach things. And we welcome you into this week's this week's episode of the official podcast of Minor League Baseball. Just in case you guys were wondering, we just got an email with the subject line question for CT Tigers. The Connecticut Tigers have not existed for 4 years now. We at podcast@milb.com, we continue to get emails for the Connecticut Tigers, who had briefly been rebranded as the Norwich Sea Navigators, correct? No, Norwich Sea Unicorns. And then they didn't play the pandemic season, and that franchise has gone away. I want to know the spam email infrastructure that has enabled us to be like the official contact for the ghost of the Connecticut Tigers franchise. But if our company is bogged down by a lot of phone calls, Persona Barshell facilitates thousands of companies like CT Tigers to pick up calls and stop missing opportunities. So
why are you giving away free ads, Tyler?
That's not a real person.
They hadn't been paying us for this.
That's not a person. I didn't tell him what the name of the company is. It's a Gmail email address. Come on.
I thought you gave away the company. I thought you were saying so and so could handle all your needs on.
No, I think that's supposed to be the person's name. The obviously very real and existing person who does all of the legwork to know that the Connecticut Tigers need help with their overwhelming phone call problem right now.
But I do want to say the Norwich Sea Unicorns. They rebranded as such when they were still an affiliated team in the New York Penn League, but they are still an active entity now in the what is it again? It's the Futures Collegiate Baseball League. So you can still go to Dodd Stadium and see the Sea Unicorns, who formerly were the Connecticut Tigers, and still see baseball there. And I'd recommend it. I'd love to go back there sometime. I enjoyed my one day in Norwich, Connecticut
I am a little bummed that I didn't jump on. The only team that I jumped on that rebranded sort of into the abyss, the teams that rebranded 2019 into 2020 didn't get to play a 2020 season and then were removed from their affiliated status. There were a handful of those. The only team that I got a hat from is the Missoula Paddleheads, who still exist, but they're not an affiliated team anymore. But yeah, the Sea Unicorns. I'm really disappointed I didn't get a New Era hat from the Rocky Mountain Vibes for their Yaronia's Copa identity. They sold out of those lightning quick, and then now being part of the Pioneer League, which is a partner league and not an affiliated league, they don't have New Era anymore. I'm a little bummed about that. This is just going to be the whole episode, is just us vamping on random minor league baseball topics of years past. I can already see Sam grinding his teeth.
I'm not grinding my teeth. I'm just laughing because before we were doing this, we were going through the archives of like guys we've talked to in the past. So it's just remembering some teams and remembering some guys this week.
Remembering some teams and remembering some dudes. It's a good way to kick off this week's episode of the show. We have had some dudes on this podcast, though. I was looking back through our archives and the people that we have had on this show. We've had some very fun prospect talent, and now guys who are just stars across the game of Major League Baseball, and that's pretty cool. And as we welcome you in, you can get in touch with us, podcast at MILB.com. You can, of course, find us on Twitter as well, at Ben's Biz, at Sam Dykstra, MILB, and at Tyler Mon. And with that, let's dive in. Let's kick things off for real on this week's episode of the show before the show. Ben's got all kinds of good stuff from road trips and everything else coming to the sites as of right now, and has a great story in the works about a baseball player who is very well named because of his travels throughout baseball. And that is the aptly named first baseman, Mike Ford, a product of Princeton University, Mike Ford, who is a guy who has been in the professional ranks in Major League Baseball or minor league baseball for quite some time now. He made his pro debut all the way back in 2013 with the then Staten Island Yankees of the then New York Penn League. But man, he has seen some things across the world of baseball, Ben.
Yeah, he's one of the stories that I wrote after visiting Tacoma, Cheney Stadium, home of the Tacoma Rainiers. Mike Ford, he's 30 years old now. Yeah, as Tyler said, he's been around. He's logged some major league time, with the Yankees, and with a bunch of other teams. Because last year, and this is why I interviewed him in Tacoma, he started 2022 as a member of the Mariners organization and started 2022 with the Tacoma Rainiers. 1 year later, member of the Mariners organization, playing for the Tacoma Rainiers. If you're not paying attention, you're just like, okay, this is a guy in the Mariners organization, a veteran bat, who's getting a lot of playing time at AAA. Except he started last season with the Tacoma Rainiers, got called up to Seattle, got traded to the Giants, played for the San Francisco Giants and their AAA affiliate, the Sacramento River Cats, moved back to Seattle, played for the Mariners again, got claimed by the Braves, played for the Braves and their AAA affiliate, the Gwinnett Stripers. Then from there, he was released by the Braves, signed with the Angels, got assigned to the Salt Lake Bees in AAA, then moved up to the Los Angeles Angels. And he did this all in 1 year. He played for 4 major league teams in 2022 and all 4 of their AAA affiliates. And then when it was all said and done, he was a free agent again and signed with the Mariners. And now he's back with their AAA team in 2023, as if nothing ever happened. And, shout out to Paul Braverman, who does, media relations with the Tacoma Rainiers. He suggested to me, Mike Ford is an interesting story. And I said, yeah, let's talk to Mike Ford. And I really enjoyed talking to him. We talked to him before the game in an empty batting cage. And, he was just really open, had a good sense of humor, just about living that life, that, on the fringe life as a baseball player. And, he laughed about it. He has some dark humor about it. But at the end of the day, he seemed to have a good attitude because, he's playing baseball for a living and he's still getting major league opportunities. And, it's better than just about anything else you could do. And I've always, through my history as a baseball fan, liked these kind of guys, these journeyman guys who are easy to not pay attention to if you're not really paying attention. But then once you do, like, wow, moving around, bouncing around, just basically any verb that can be assigned to a baseball transaction, applied to Mike Ford at some point last year: optioned, assigned, recalled, activated, released. et cetera, just all through. And then he plays for 4 teams and 4 AAA affiliates, but there's also huge chunks of the season or small chunks throughout the season that add up to a huge chunk where he's just home in Tampa waiting for that next opportunity. So when you think about how long a minor league season is, or a major league season, a professional baseball season, think of it in the context of somebody like him. And got a story on him coming up on MILB.com. And, I don't do a ton of player stuff, but that's what I've been focusing on right now from my recent road trip. Because with players, I try to get those stories up as quick as I can, because you never know where they're going to end up and you don't want the story to become irrelevant.
By the way, he is just annihilating PCL pitching right now. 43 games so far this season, 298, 412, 583 his slash line, 995 OPS, 10 homers, 47 runs batted in. He's got 11 doubles. He's got a triple this year as well. It's been a good year to be Mike Ford.
Yeah, he's doing well. And he told me that, of course he wants to be back in the major leagues, but I think after all that movement last year, and the season's still young, he could still have a lot of chapters left in this season, but to finally just be in the same place, getting consistent reps in the same place, same ballparks, same coaching staff, same teammates, I think means a lot. I mean, just think psychologically. He told me at one point last season, he got traded to the Braves from the Mariners the first time he left the Mariners. And then he's facing Scherzer the next day, with a new team. And it's just kind of like, here you go. And then plays a few games and then he's gone from them. And, at one point he's getting word that he's been traded to the Giants, and it's 1 a.m. in Tampa. And he's on a flight, early the next, hours later to play a day game in San Francisco the next day. It's a crazy life.
Well, Ben, you continue your player story segment of the trip by talking to somebody in Vancouver whose last name is Spain. So you talked to them in Canada, you talked to Spain in Canada about something other than baseball, a sport other than baseball. How did that kind of come about?
Yeah, it's again, a lot of time I got to give credit to the media relations guys, often who are also the broadcasters, like Tyler Zickel in Vancouver. Great dude. He was like, yeah, let's, what? Garrett Spain is an interesting guy. He's a member of the Vancouver Canadians, who are the high A affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. And Garrett Spain, he grew up playing baseball, of course. He's now a professional baseball player, but his first love and the sport he paid the most attention to and played the most was hockey. So here's a guy who grew up in Clarksville, Tennessee, wanted nothing more than to be an NHL player. When push came to shove after, competing, in, junior hockey, in going on all sorts of tournaments and, being a well-regarded guy, realized he might have more opportunities in baseball after all, which is probably a secondary sport. And now after all that, where is he? He's a guy who loves hockey in Tennessee, and now he's playing baseball professionally in Vancouver, in the one city in all of Canada that has a affiliated professional baseball team. So, talk about that disconnect to be a huge hockey guy in Tennessee and then now a baseball guy in Vancouver. You just never know how your life's going to end up. Working on a story on him that'll be up early next week, and got stories from all those locales still to come. I just kind of cycle through once, then cycle through again, and get as much as I can going. The Ben's Biz Beat newsletter, I've been doing kind of old school blog style writing within them, really trying to add a lot of details just about what it's like to be at these ballparks for a night. And those stories are running on MILB.com as well. So trying to keep it diverse and have a lot of content up there, a lot more still to come. And I can't believe I've been back from the road for a few weeks. I feel like, man, I'm just getting started with all this material, and now it's time to start thinking about where I'm going next. Stressful, but it's a good kind of stress.
All right, Ben. Well, as we get to really, almost approaching the midway point of this season, what is next for you? We know the on the road schedule is kind of fluid at times because you've got the opportunity to jump out and hit some teams that are a little bit closer to home. What's next on the Ben's Biz Globetrotting itinerary list? Couldn't come up with anything clever after globetrotting.
Yeah, well, it is globetrotting, even though it's a portion of the globe that is fairly concentrated in the United States. And by fairly concentrated, I mean 99% concentrated outside of the aforementioned Vancouver Canadians. I'm heading to the south in mid-June, and we'll get into that in the near future, probably next week. Let's talk about that. But before that, this is not really a trip so much as a jaunt, just a one-day trip from my home in Brooklyn, New York, to I'm always confused what town this team actually plays in. Wappingers Falls, the Hudson Valley Renegades. Going to go there on June 3rd. I'm way overdue to visit Hudson Valley, particularly given how relatively close it is to where I live. And so I was overdue for a trip there anyway, but this is a special day in Hudson Valley. They're playing as the Apple Cider Donuts. So I figured if I'm going to go to Hudson Valley, might as well go on a special occasion. And I'm going to see the debut of the Hudson Valley Apple Cider Donuts. And, we talked about that identity when it was first announced this past fall. And now I'm going to be at the ballpark and see what they do with it. I wanted to call that ballpark the Dutchess Stadium, but it just changed its name. It now has a corporate name. Let's informally call it the Dutch right now, but
it's always the Dutch to us.
Yeah, we'll get the t-shirt. It's still the Dutch to me. But no, there is a new and shout out to them for the revenue that these corporate naming rights deals brings, and that is very important, especially in the world of minor league baseball. To the extent that I need the Heritage Financial Park, aka the Dutch. I'll be there on June 3rd for Apple Cider Donuts, and looking forward to that. This is actually the first time I've talked about this publicly. What a huge scoop for you guys yet again, just getting the latest in Ben's Biz news. I hope you realize what a privileged position you're in, just to hear these words from my lips first. It's an amazing thing.
Well, you can only imagine how hurt we would be if you told somebody else first. Ben. That's the
true.
other side of that coin.
Yeah,
True.
Ben.
And trying not to hurt feelings is really what motivates most of my life decisions, because no one can ever be mad at me. Then I feel really bad.
Same. I get that. Benjamin Hill, you can find on Twitter at Ben's Biz. He's on Instagram at the Ben's Biz. And of course, you can read the stuff at milb.com. And thanks, Ben.
Yeah, thank you guys. And thank you, Sound. Thank you, Sound. Here on the Show Before the Show podcast, we are joined by Tyson Jeffers, General Manager of the Hudson Valley Renegades, who on Tuesday, November 1st, unveiled a new alternate identity that will now be part of the team's ballpark experience all season long. And 4 times this season, they are suiting up as the Hudson Valley Cider Donuts. So Tyson, thanks for being here to talk all about the Hudson Valley Cider Donuts.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, it goes without saying that food-related identities, alternate identities, have been a big thing in minor league baseball for a good 7 or so years now. I believe this is the first one for the Renegades, and first Cider Donuts identity, of course, probably in professional sports history, I imagine. Tell us how this came about. What was the process like in deciding you wanted to go this route? And I know these things take a long time from first brainstorm to finally getting out into the world.
Yeah, so I think this one probably took longer than normal. COVID had some impact on that. So pre-COVID, and this is pre my tenure with the Renegades, even before I was general manager, they started having these discussions, I think back in 2018, and they created some concept artwork that is a little rough, but it was like, it's still fun to look at. And that got pulled out. I believe it was sometime during COVID when we got back into the offices. We started looking through files and we're like, hey, we're going to need some stuff to spice things up once we get out of COVID and get back to real life and get into the season. And 2021 came, and it didn't feel like the right time because we were still impacted by COVID. So we kind of left it on the back burner for that season. And then 2022 rolled around and we're like, okay, let's get serious about this. And we pulled it out. We reached out to Brandios, who has done a fantastic job with a lot of other teams and doing alternate identities, and started having the conversations with them. And they started working with us on the design and the personality and all of the layers that go into it. And we built what we have today, which is Dusty the Cider Donut. Hopefully I can send you guys images. If people haven't seen those, they can go to our website to check those out. But yeah, we released it on Tuesday to a lot of fanfare, definitely from people in the Hudson Valley that know what a cider donut is. I think there's people from around the country that are still learning what that is. So we're excited to tell that story.
Yeah, definitely want to get into the imagery a little bit shortly and talk about Dusty, who appears someone has taken a bite out of him, which uh, seems might have been a little
Does
troubling on
seem
Dusty's
dark.
end.
Yeah, it does. It does seem
We
dark for
we
him. It's the beginning of the end.
we joke that Dusty grew up on the streets, so he's been through a little
It's
bit.
a tough world for a donut. But before we get into that, when we're talking Hudson Valley Renegades, we're talking Hudson Valley, New York. Known for being a lot of natural beauty in the area, not too far from New York City. Take Metro North in that direction. Um, Tell us about cider donuts in the region. The places that do it well, and why it is specific to Hudson Valley and so special to your team and your identity.
Yeah, so the Hudson Valley, anyone that hasn't been up here, it's one of the most beautiful places during the fall. The changing of the colors when you see a lot of pictures of kind of the most beautiful leaves in fall and the essence of fall. It's a lot of pictures probably from the Hudson Valley or up in this region. So people love to get outdoors and do things outside before winter rolls in and we all get stuck inside. And there's a lot of apple orchards, there's a lot of farms and farmland, and they do a lot of things during the fall. And part of that process and part of that, I guess, the activities is cider donuts. And people go out, they pick apples, they go eat fresh cider donuts, they drink hard cider, NA ciders, so there's a lot of stuff going on up here. There's a lot of apple orchards that people frequent, and it's just one of those things that I think every region kind of has its own delicacies, and this is one of those here in upstate New York.
Now, Tyson, I got to ask you about the timing for not the release, but for the season. Teams, come up with different food identities, but they are not generally seasonal outside of baseball season. So you guys get kind of an autumnal themed thing for a sport that's played in spring and summer mostly, but of course now obviously goes a little bit later. What is the plan for, if it's an alternate uniform day, but it's July and it's miserably hot? How are you bringing the apple cider donuts concept to a spring and summertime feel?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think all of us never want baseball to end, so we look at it as year round, and anytime we can keep talking about it year round, it helps us. So hopefully this allows us to keep that conversation going through the off season. But during the season, as you said, like when it starts getting hot and people are like, oh man, I wish it would cool off. We hope to bring that feel into the ballpark. I mean, we're going to have cider donuts made fresh every single game from April 7th opening night to the end of the season in September. So we're gonna bring that, and you can eat cider donuts hot or cold. So even on a warm day, you could eat a cold cider donut, drink some cold hard cider, and enjoy it and cool off a little bit. But we're gonna have when we change to the cider donuts for those 4 games, we're gonna infuse the fall themes in different ways. We're still planning those details out, but we hope to have a lot of fun with that theme.
That's what I was going to ask too, is if you were going to have cider donuts available at Cider Donuts games, but you're actually going to have them every day during the season.
Every day. So
that's even more fun.
We're going to start pretty simple with just straight cider donuts, but hopefully it can evolve into more unique food options like a cider donuts hamburger. We haven't tested any of these, so I'm just spitballing. But Ben, I know you're into the food stuff, so maybe you can come up with some ideas on what we can create with a cider donut.
Yeah, I'll start brainstorming right away, and I'm way overdue for the trip to Lehigh Valley. Geez, that overdue I am that I called it Lehigh Valley. I'm way overdue to come to Hudson Valley, and looking forward to seeing those cider donuts firsthand and having my designated eater gorge himself. Take the proverbial bite out of Dusty.
Tyson, I wanted to just ask about the advertising for this, and you were talking about the look with Dusty and how you guys came up with that, and I'll touch on that here in a second. But just the ad you guys announced for this through, announcing the hat and what it's going to look like, and it says it's cider season. It almost reminds me of kind of like an old school ad, almost like a sneaker ad that you might see from way back when. Just take us through the advertising for it and the look that you guys are promoting along with it.
Yeah, and we've kind of transitioned to the simplistic theme for our advertising, and that will carry on throughout this season. Some of that is in 2024 will be our 30th anniversary. So we're starting to line up a more simplistic and kind of retro look in a way. It also allows us to showcase merchandise in a really clean fashion. I love it. When you look at that, you're like, oh man, it kind of takes people back, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s. It's kind of like that old school Nike ad that you'd see in like a Sports Illustrated magazine or something. So it allows us to simplify the messaging, really highlight the big piece like it's cider season and showcase that, and then make the hat the focal point. We did that with a retro hat we did a couple weeks back too, and it got a ton of play. So we wanted to really do that and let the hat speak for itself. The colorways of the hat are pretty unique when you look across the board at other minor league teams. And then Dusty and his look is unique in its own way too, and has a lot of different pieces to it. So we didn't want to clutter the stuff around it. We wanted people to be really focused on the hat and the other merchandise we'll put out here in the upcoming weeks. We want people to be able to focus on those.
Yeah, and it definitely makes it easy to focus on this hat. Like you said, it is a little unique in that it's a green hat with an orange bill for a sport that's usually so dominated by red and blue. And there is some red in here between the apple ball that he's holding and the apple on the jug of cider. But you mentioned before that before COVID, this went through several iterations. What are some of those iterations? Like what changes were made along the way to get to the Dusty we all know and love now?
So Dusty is, and when you see him, he kind of has a little smirk, and you can kind of take it as he's like a little, I don't know how to describe it, but it kind of looks deceivious in a way, like he's kind of running away from something, like he just stole that apple that he's carrying. But the first iterations were a little bit more cartoonish, I'd say, as far as like when you think of a kid's comic book or kid's like cartoon, very loving and huggable type. And I think Dusty that we have today has a little bit more attitude and spunk, and that kind of fits more with our personality as a team of being the Renegades, and our main mascot Rascal, like he's deceivious in his own way. So we tied some of the personalities of our authentic brand into Dusty a little bit.
Yeah, and you talked about the merchandise, and I know there's more to come, but I think I saw something on Twitter this week that one of the pieces of Hudson Valley Cider Donuts merchandise will be a scented T-shirt. Is that the case? I feel like it's so hard to say this is a first in minor league baseball. I feel like maybe Lehigh Valley had some bacon scented T-shirts, but pretty rare. How did you kind of, I don't want to say stumble upon it, find out about that option and follow through with, if not unprecedented, the very rare scented minor league alternate identity T-shirt?
Yeah, so Lehigh Valley has done that with their bacon scented shirts, and we're lucky enough to have Zach Bekowski on our staff. He is a product of Lehigh Valley. So I think, as you guys know, minor league baseball teams are great at stealing ideas from other teams, and we knew they did it. We knew they've had a lot of success with it, and the people that we work with on our merchandising knew that was an option, and they said, hey, let's check into it and see if we can get an apple cinnamon smelling T-shirt, and I think sweatshirt too. So those are pretty cool. We haven't gotten them in hand yet, so I'm eager to see how pungent they are from a smell standpoint, if you're just walking around and it smells like you've been sprayed with apple cinnamon. But I know that it lasts for like 25 washes, which is pretty good, so it will smell for a while. But yeah, it's unique. We want to have different things that go beyond just a standard T-shirt. Our whole goal is to make it more of an immersive experience from start to finish, and part of that is having unique items that we sell beyond just the traditional T-shirts or sweatshirts. And it goes all the way down into the packaging that we're going to deliver it in when people make online orders.
All right, Tyson. Well, this is going to be the last one for me. Being from the Hudson Valley, and I'm currently in Arizona, but I will be flying back to New York City on Monday. And one of my favorite things is always driving up there and, stopping somewhere along the way for cider donuts. So, do you have a favorite spot around the area other than what you guys will be making yourselves at the Dutch every night next year? Where are the best cider donuts in the Hudson Valley?
So one of our partners is Adams Fair Care Farm. So they have different locations and they make some of the best cider donuts around. You can get those at their locations. Another one, they're not a partner, someone that we'd love to talk to. Angry Orchard has a pretty big, I should say, they have a lot of land. They have their actual orchard up in this area. And when you go and tour that, they have fresh cider donuts that they make right there on site. Beyond the cider donuts, the view and the whole experience is pretty fantastic. So when you can get a good cider donut plus the views of the Hudson Valley, especially during the fall, it makes the experience way better.
And to go back to Dusty, I almost called him Busty. My goodness, I'm self-destructing today. To go back to Dusty, one last time, we talked about him a little bit of a rough and tumble character, has a bite taken out of him. Obviously very prevalent in the branding of this alternate identity, but will we see Dusty in the flesh, so to speak, at the ballpark? Will there be a life-size or larger than life-size cider donut walking around the ballpark?
We have not pulled the trigger on that yet. That's something that we wanted to test the brand and make sure that it had the legs to sustain more than just a single iteration. So based on the start of this and the pace, it's going really well. So it's something that we're looking into right now on creating a more permanent fixture and character for our experience here at the ballpark, because we will serve cider donuts all season long. So it's possible that we do introduce a life-size Dusty in 2023, but I know for sure that we're already looking into it for 2024. So expect to probably see him at some point. I just don't know exactly when.
Well, I hope this interview has made you, the listener, hungry for some cider donuts, and can keep that appetite in the baseball season. 4 times at the Dutch in 2023, in addition to donuts every single day. So unprecedented territory here for cider donuts and minor league baseball. Tyson Jeffers, general manager of the Hudson Valley Renegades and occasionally the Hudson Valley Cider Donuts. Thanks so much for joining the Show Before the Show podcast.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was fun.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, our fearless Sam Dykstra has returned from the wilds and is back in his civilized form. Although the beard still looks fantastic from your journey through the wilderness. Not really the wilderness. He went to Louisville, Kentucky. Awesome town. I've only been to Louisville once. Fantastic place. Didn't get a chance to catch a Bats game. I was not there during baseball season, but super cool place. You got a chance to not only catch some Bats action, but to talk with maybe the most talented prospect in all minor league baseball right now, and Elly De La Cruz. I had an International League broadcaster text me the other day and say, like, Elly De La Cruz looks like he was created in a baseball lab. Like, he is just the perfect baseball player. You got to talk to him, got to do some other exploration of Louisville, what's going on in that Reds organization right now. But tell us about Elly De La Cruz. You got a piece up at the site about him, a guy who has just exploded onto the scene this year.
Yeah, that was part of my goal to go last week to Louisville, is to catch Elly De La Cruz while he's in AAA. I mean, it feels like the Reds could call him up at any moment at this point. If I had to guess, I would say by mid-June, but certainly by the All-Star break. We saw what they did with Matt McLain, who got off to a great start. Somebody they pushed aggressively from AA to AAA because he didn't have a great AA year last year. Clearly made some adjustments. Now he's in Cincinnati. feels like Ellie De La Cruz is going to follow him at some point. The big thing for him now is just getting a lot of reps at shortstop after he moved between short and third, and also improving his plate discipline. And I'll get into that in a second. But you're right. I mean, he is very much kind of like of the O'Neill Cruz mold. That's his biggest comp in the game right now, is just a super tall shortstop. He's a little bit shorter than O'Neill Cruz, but has a heck of an arm. I mean, you could put an 80 grade on it, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree. He's had multiple throws at 99 miles an hour. We know he can hit the ball incredibly hard. He had one game in which he hit the ball at 116 miles an hour 3 times in one game, which no team has ever done in the StatCast era, never mind an individual player. So Giancarlo Stanton's never done that. Aaron Judge has never done that. Shohei Ohtani's never done that. Ellie De La Cruz did it for Louisville. So the power is there. And it just felt like everybody had an Ellie De La Cruz story. Everybody's got to have some moment where their jaw just hit the floor. And I'm sure that happens like on a daily basis with him. But what were the stories that stood out? So that's what I kind of wanted to get into when I went down there. And I got some really good ones. And it was really funny how it worked out, because it was basically like the cycle. You know, I asked Andrew Abbott, who we'll talk about in a little bit, what is your favorite Ellie De La Cruz story? He told me about a time in Chattanooga where Ellie hit a 512-foot home run. According to TrackMan, that's not just like somebody estimating. That's according to the data. It was 512 feet, which would be the longest home run in baseball since the StatCast era began, if it was measured by StatCast. He told the story about how like everybody in both dugouts, it wasn't just the Lookouts dugout, everybody in both dugouts immediately ran to the computers to see how far it went, because they were so enthused by it. Chucky Robinson,
awesome. That's awesome.
It must have been some scene, and you could just see his eyes light up as he's telling the story. I really enjoyed it. You heard last week, if you listened to the show, Chucky Robinson talk about Ellie De La Cruz having a triple in Iowa, in which he made it to third base in 11.9 seconds, and it didn't look like he was running. It looked like he was jogging. A lot of that has to do with his huge frame. I mean, just watching him run, it feels like it takes him like 5 strides to get to first base.
Yeah, he's like an NBA big man, where it's like, oh, you take 5 steps and you're all the way down the floor. That is him running the bases.
But that's the thing, is that you watch NBA, I mean, you watch college basketball big men all the time, and those guys are slow moving. It takes them a while to get up to speed. And he has that for sure. But like when he's at his top speed, he's moving in a freakish way. So it was good to hear that side from the speed side. And then his manager, Pat Kelly, told me a story of how his first AAA hit was a bouncing ball that went through the infield. And you think, oh, great, that's nice. He got his first hit. It just squeaked past second baseman. Cool. He looked up, he was on second base. Like he was pushing the envelope in his first AAA hit. It wasn't just like, oh, that's good, I have it on my ledger. Like, that's great. So everybody had these stories of what Ellie De La Cruz already was in the minor leagues. And as we try to figure out who he can be, the thing that stood out to me was he was starting to walk more. He was just taking his walks. And that was the biggest question for us when we were making the top 100, especially in our most recent update, is Ellie De La Cruz has struck out 30% of the time, pretty much everywhere he's been. And that's only going to get worse in the major leagues unless he really changed his approach. So talking to him, he was like, yeah, I mean, I just have realized they're throwing me a lot of breaking balls in the dirt. And that's what I'm swinging at. And I really need to work hard on stopping to do that. So as I dug into the data, his chase rate is now above average. It's better than what major league average would be. Now, how is that going to translate when he goes up against major league arms? We'll see. But I think you could certainly make a case that he's the number 1 overall prospect in the game right now. We had those conversations when we were doing it. It was just, what is the bat going to be? And if the bat's as good as it's been lately, like the ceiling on him is indescribable. It's insanely good. So I'm really enthused to see what he can do, how he can expand this out over a larger sample. But he's coming, Cincinnati. He's coming quick. And when he does, he's kind of the franchise cornerstone that you're going to build around. And hopefully those sunnier times, they have some pieces in place now with Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green and Graham Ashcraft in the rotation. But Ellie De La Cruz is going to be the center of your lineup for a long time coming.
Man, and not only that, but like Noelvi Marte is on the way, Edwin Arroyo is on the way. Like they got a lot in progress on the way to Cincinnati. And I know there have not been a whole lot of fun seasons there as of late, but we've seen what Cincinnati is like when that team wins. and when they are successful, and it's one of the great baseball cities in America, and really excited to see what's up next for the Cincinnati Reds. What else stood out from Louisville? I know you've got another piece coming to the site as of today, actually, which is going to be more pitching focused. Give us the breakdown on that, and what else do you like about Louisville? I want to know, like, did you go on the Bourbon Trail? Did you have good food? What was the story?
Yeah, I'll get into that in a second,
Okay.
but I do want to touch on Andrew Abbott real quick. We have a pitching lab story out from him now, and he was one of the more fascinating guys I wanted to dig into for this series because he had been pitching at Double-A Chattanooga to begin the year and had been absolutely shoving there. I mean, multiple starts with 10 plus strikeouts. And he's somebody who we knew coming into the year had a pretty good fastball, had a really good curveball, had a slider that he developed at the tail end of last year. So the pitches were there. It's just like, what can he do to take that to the next level? And the way he was getting whiffs, I mean, he was, as we're talking here today, he's leading the minor leagues in strikeouts and strikeout percentage. So I was like, what changed? I wanted to talk to him about it. But at Double-A Chattanooga in the Southern League, they're using the pre-tacked ball. Now, Tyler, you have some experience witnessing that. Pre-tacked balls are what they're using internationally now.
Yeah.
In international play. What has been the reaction when you've seen that over there?
It's interesting because every player that I've talked to, pitchers especially, about the international pre-tacked balls, they love them, and players raved about them during the Tokyo Olympic Games a couple of summers ago. It's very successful, but I know the situation in the Southern League has been a little bit different this year, and it's not the same baseball. It's a different style of pre-tacking and all that. But there's been a lot of conversation about hit batsman way up, command is off for a lot of pitchers. Guys aren't really getting a feel for stuff with this pre-tack ball as of yet. So there obviously are some tweaks that are going to need to be made, but it is interesting because comparing it to the international reaction, players love that pre-tack ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that I think part of this is just like going through a transition takes time. And I'm not saying this ball is like the ball that they should use. I think part of this is trying to find what's the right level of tack. But talking to Andrew Abbott, he's like, listen, this is greater for pitchers because the rise on his fastball, he was up to like 21 inches of vertical or inverted vertical break. So the ball was, and his average normally was around 16 to 18. So we're adding like at most 5 inches of rise on your fastball,
which is nuts.
Yeah,
that's a lot of movement.
It's a lot of movement or lack of movement in that way, because you're
right.
What it means is like you expect a ball to move, to drop a certain way, and it doesn't. So you're thinking it's going to be down here, but it's actually up here. You think it's rising, but it doesn't. That's not how physics work. Anyway, so by doing that, and his best thing about his fastball has always been his ability to pitch up in the zone. Now he's doing that even better. That's where those strikeouts were coming. So now he's in AAA, using a more normal ball, a major league ball. How is his stuff playing? He said it's back closer to that 16, 18 range, but he's still getting whiffs on the fastball. He's getting whiffs on the curveball. The slider's working pretty well, and the changeup's working well, because all of his stuff is going in different directions. And that's huge. You got the fastball that has rise on it. You have the curveball that's basically going down, straight down. You have the slider that's breaking to his right, about 15 inches. And then you have the changeup that is breaking to his left. Not breaking, but is, has arm side run to his left at 15 inches. So if he's throwing a slider or a changeup, and this is what he said, there's like 30 inches difference in which ways they're ending up. And if you're not catching on to that, you're swinging and missing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he's got 4 good pitches doing that. So it's not just a case of, hey, this guy shoved at Double-A and that's all he's going to ever be. Even as we're speaking now, I think he's got a 1-hitter going through 4 innings for Louisville with multiple strikeouts again. So you want to look at who the Reds hope to be and want to be. Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz is coming. Noelvi Marte is coming. Christian Encarnacion Strand, who we haven't talked about yet, who's at Louisville as well. He could be a foundational piece for them. They have the bats coming. They already kind of have the arms in that rotation. But if you add Abbott next to Lodolo and Green and Ashcraft, and those guys are all going to be there for a long time coming, that's how you build a contender. That's how you kind of get to where the Baltimore Orioles are right now. I know the Orioles haven't invested in pitching in the way they maybe a lot of teams would have hoped, or a lot of players or fans would have hoped. But they have Grayson Rodriguez there. They have DL Hall there. They have something to add to the mix, and Andrew Abbott can certainly be that. for the Reds, and pretty soon. I think he's getting to the point where, just like Ellie De La Cruz, at least by the All-Star break, he should be seeing the majors.
That story just went up on the site, literally as we were talking, by the way. So you can go to MLB Pipeline and read that right now. And all right, what were the other non-baseball highlights, Sam?
Yeah,
not that you had a ton of time. It's not like it was just like a vacation for Sam, but
I know that's the thing is that I came back and a lot of people were asking, so what did you do? What did you do? And I'm like, honestly, I went to the ballpark 2 days and spent a lot of my time there. And I will say, Louisville Slugger Field is a nice place. You can tell people really take pride in it. I really love the way they took over an old train station and have made that part of the concourse. So it really feels like, I always have this feeling of train station, you're going on a journey, right? That's the whole point. You're going somewhere. It's the start of your journey. So you're walking through that as you go into the ballpark. It just adds a little extra feeling like I'm going to go on a baseball journey here. So I like the way they did that. I stayed right in downtown Louisville. There's tons to do around there. I was staying basically right next to the convention center, and you can tell they've done a really good job of like building up that area to if conventions are in town. There's tons of bars, there's tons of restaurants. I went for a nice run in which I ran to Indiana, which sounds crazy. It was a 4-mile run. Yeah.
But it's just over the bridge. It's a long bridge though, right?
It was like,
okay. Well, that's true. You have actual rivers out there. Bridges, bridges in the West are like, oh, it's like a 30-foot bridge. Out there, it's like, that's a half a mile straight across this river.
I know, yeah. It was like a New York style bridge. It was like it felt like going over the Manhattan Bridge.
You went to New Albany.
I went to New Albany,
which is the town right across the river, which is awesome. Super cool little town. That whole area is great. If you have a chance to drive through, if you've never been to Louisville and you've got an opportunity to go catch a Bats game, it's just a really cool area.
One thing I will say is they do a really good job of celebrating their native sons and daughters. Like they have signs up everywhere. I don't know if this was there last time you were there, Tyler, but it just said like Louisville's Ali.
That's cool.
Louisville's Jennifer Lawrence, she's from there, and all these people like maybe I
forgot Jennifer Lawrence is from there. Yeah, I do remember that there was I saw something there that was in honor of Jennifer Lawrence, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and actually, a good friend of mine from college went to elementary school with her, which is a very funny story.
That's like
the thickest Kentucky accent, and she does not, so it's very funny to me.
Our good pal Josh Jackson, who just like let it slip one day, that he went to high school, I believe, with Anna Kendrick. Josh we were just like talking one day, and Josh was like, oh yeah, I do. I was on the crew. She was in the play. It's like, wait a minute, Anna Kendrick, like that Anna Kendrick, you went to high school with her? And it was like 5 years into our friendship, he just dropped that nugget.
That also makes Maine sound so much smaller.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which is very funny because it's always like the joke about New Yorkers or, East Coasters. They'll meet somebody who's from like a Western part of the country, be like, oh, you're from Montana? I know a guy from Montana. You must know him. And that's never the case. But with Maine, it's like, yeah, kind of like, oh yeah, Anna Kendrick, she's from Maine. Like you went to high school with her. Okay. That's cool.
Obviously. Right.
Stephen King, Josh is, I'm assuming good friends with
I'm sure they're pen pals. They write each other all the time. But no, Louisville does a really good job, and that's like beyond just like the Colonel Sanders-ness of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
All that kind of stuff. But yeah, I highly recommend going to a Bats game if you're ever in the area. They do a good job, and it's a fun team to watch right now. Get there while you can before these guys get called up. But I'm a big fan of downtown ballparks that you can walk to.
Yeah,
so walking from my hotel to the park every day was a big plus for me.
I also am a big fan of the Louisville Bats Twitter bio, which is, quote, the most appropriately named team in professional sports. And they're not.
It is. They did a really good job at naming that team. And
they did.
Although I will say that Twitter account got a little bit of hot water yesterday. I don't know if you heard about this, Tyler.
I did not.
So out of nowhere, I mean, not out of nowhere, they don't really need an excuse, but they tweeted a picture of Ellie De La Cruz.
Okay.
Just like looking happy, playing baseball. Happy to be out there, but no caption, nothing going on. Very shortly afterwards, they tweet a picture of the lineup. Ellie De La Cruz is not in the lineup.
Oh no!
All of Southwest Ohio is freaking out and just being like, "So why would they do this?"
I'm now looking at the tweets. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just a day off. Guy needed a day off. They were traveling to Syracuse. They have a day off on Monday. They wanted to give him a little extra breather. He's literally playing as we speak. So he's not getting called up. But.
This morning, the Bats posted a fake movie poster titled Ellie De La Cruz's Day Off, One Man's Quest for the Big Leagues. And the tweet is, from the Twitter timeline to the silver screen, we won't play with your heartstrings again, Bats fans.
It's just, as always, be careful with what you tweet. That's all I'm saying.
That is very good stuff. So you can read Sam's coverage, of course, at MLB Pipeline. And speaking of our good friend and Anna Kendrick's good friend, Josh Jackson, he stops by the show with Ghosts of the Minors coming up next. Interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Minors. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Minors, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One has a history you can bite into. The others will leave you hungry. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A, the Corning Independents. B, the Killeen Individualists. C, the Medford Mavericks. You're not one to follow the crowd if you picked A, the Corning Independents, who stood out on their own in the Pony League of 1953. If you remember episode 368 of The Show Before the Show, you might think the singular independents have you seeing double, or hearing double. Although the independents were one of a kind, we're throwing a backdoor breaking ball by revisiting them to explore their affiliated antecedents and descendants. Yes, this episode is secretly all about the Corning Dependents. As you'll recall, the Independents, lowly loners of the Crystal City in upstate New York, took their name for that 53 campaign after the end of their working agreement with the Philadelphia Athletics. So, what's new? In 51, that working agreement was, and it brought the Miners to Corning for the very first time. Corning's A's were introduced as a colorful replacement for the dearly departed Lockport Reds, making their home in War Memorial Stadium, a multi-purpose athletic facility constructed in the optimistic year of 1948. The Bradford Era, local paper of the Pony League's Bradford Phillies, described the ballpark as beautiful and one of the finest parks in the low minors, noting ample parking on site as well as a grandstand and office setup that exceeds many others in many respects. The product on the field, though, exceeded hardly anybody in any respect. Player manager Irwin Hall, who'd seen over 500 big league games as a middle infielder for the Athletics in the middle 40s, hit bottom with last place Corning in the club's inaugural campaign. They were 45 and 81. Well, there was always next year. Except in 52, the team was 53 and 71 under skipper Joe Rollo, and at that point, Philadelphia decided there would not be a next year for the Corning A's. Despite the Independents' unique lousiness in 53, the Red Sox partnered with Corning, which took the new parent club's name and the Pony League crown in 54. They played well the next two seasons, too, and drew well enough to move over to the New York Penn League when the Pony League collapsed after the 56 season. The Boston Corning connection continued, with the 59 club going as far as calling itself the Core Sox. In the fall of 1960, though, the Red Sox announced they were moving their Pony League affiliation 70 miles west to the town of Olean. And that's how the Independents became too reliant. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these teams tried to get some giggles in the minors of yesteryear? A, the Hutchinson Larks. B, the Norman Gags. C, the Wigwam Jokers. Want to know the answer? Lighten up. Or tune into the next Ghost of the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is shopping for fruit, and I'm afraid he's going to buy a lemon.
Josh Jackson, your friend and ours, the legend of Ghost of the Miners. These fans, they just can't get enough of him. Listen to this crowd. Listen to this ovation for Josh. It's like a weekly. Man, they're getting so loud. Can't even hear me over them.
This is reminding me of the Cannes Film Festival, and where it's always like recorded later. Oh, they got a 6-minute standing ovation. What does that mean? So now fans listening to Ghost is just going to try to deem like how good we think Ghost was that week. Basically,
one week I'm just going to add the audio of the crowd for like an hour and 45 minutes. It'll just be Josh ends, and these vaudevillian fans will never sit down. But that brings us to our final segment of this week's episode of the show. Before the show, we had a lengthy off air discussion about these headphones that send sound through your skull, brain, bones. That's I think the technical term. That all sounds wild, and we're now going to start a band called the Bone Conductors. And that's going to be very exciting. But we're also going to tell you what to watch on MILB.TV this week, as well as a promotion to look out for. And we're going to kick things off on the promo side. Ben, what is the most thrilling promotion, or the thing that you're most excited about this week? Obviously, other than the Cider Donuts, which I really want. I might need to figure out a way to have you guys ship me a box of Cider Donuts. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. What's coming up this weekend you're most hyped for?
Yeah, Cider Donuts is actually 2 weekends from now, which I had to be reminded of just a few minutes ago by you guys. It's very hard to keep track of things during this most busy time of year. But coming up this weekend, I believe actually debuting Thursday, the day this podcast drops, and then continuing through the weekend, is something I think we've talked about before. But again, there's so much going on. I can't remember what I've talked about in what forum. But regardless, the Springfield Cardinals, Springfield, Missouri, Ozark region. They don't play in Texas, but AA Texas League. They are doing what I believe is their first full-blown alternate identity. It's a food-related alternate identity. And I liked it immediately because this is why I like food-related alternate identities, when it's something that I had no idea about until the minor league team announced it. And that is the Springfield Cardinals are making their debut May 25th and through the weekend as the Springfield, man, have I really hyped this up. I mean, I'm sure everyone's at the edge of their seat. Springfield cashew chickens, like the Chinese style cashew chicken dish. Allegedly, apparently, certainly originated in Springfield, Missouri 60 years ago. A chef named David Leong, Leong, invented cashew chicken, fried chicken, a savory sauce, roasted cashews, green onions, and it's a big deal in Springfield. Of course, you can still get it at the original restaurant where it was invented those many decades ago, and I think now there's other Springfield restaurants that do it too because it's a Springfield thing. And that is, of course, Springfield, Missouri, not any of the other many, many Springfields out there. And so they're playing as the Cashew Chickens, really cool identity. And they, of course, are selling cashew chicken at the ballpark as a concession item dish, so that is a unique thing as well. So interested to see how that looks on the field. Interested to see how the cashew chicken concession stand, how that does at the concession stand. And props to the Springfield Cardinals. They play in a region filled with Cardinals fans and are generally a little bit more of a conservative operation promotionally. So kudos to them for jumping on board the alternate identity train and becoming the Cashew Chickens.
I'm kind of surprised to learn that Cashew Chicken's only been around for like 60 years. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. I imagine in the history of the human race, someone added cashews to chicken probably more than 60 years ago, but
could be
in terms of it really becoming
a thing,
standardized thing.
Yeah.
Springfield, Missouri.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not have guessed Springfield, Missouri either. There are some very interesting the histories, the stories of especially like with Chinese American food or Americanized Chinese food. I remember there was a documentary on Netflix I watched several years ago called Searching for General Tso, which was about like Was there an actual General Tso? How did the name become used for that dish, General Tso's chicken? It was a restaurant on the Upper East Side of New York that I think first pioneered it. And then there was like a competition or like, like a bragging rights sort of deal between like, was it this restaurant or that restaurant? So there's some cool stories there. And kudos to Springfield for jumping on something that's so local and is a very cool and unique thing for that market.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there's stories behind the story behind the story. I mean, we go into like, who was the chef who invented it? Like, why did he end up in Springfield, Missouri?
Yeah.
60 years ago. What is his story? I'd love just to trace these things back. So there's always paths to explore.
That is pretty cool. All right, Sam, what are you watching on MILB.TV this week? We got a lot of good matchups. What are you tuned into?
Yeah, I mean, as always, trying to push you guys, you listeners, I should say, to the free games that we have available through MLB Pipeline and the MLB.com homepage. You'll be able to watch this series for free on Sunday. It's at a 7:05 p.m. Eastern start on Sunday. It's Norfolk against Memphis. Norfolk, it might have like one of the most loaded lineups in all of the minor leagues. That entire team, I believe, leads the minor leagues in run differential. They were essentially like the minor league version of the Rays for a while there. I know the Rangers have actually caught up to the Rays in run differential in the majors. Anyways, it's besides the point. They're a very loaded lineup. Jordan Westberg is there. Connor Norby is there. Colton Cowser, currently on the IL, but has gotten off to a really solid start. So that Norfolk team is one you're going to want to watch. But also on the other side, of course, with Memphis, Jordan Walker, who's still our number one overall prospect over at MLB Pipeline, hit a home run the other day. That was vintage Jordan Walker. Was hit hard. He lifted it well. I think he's starting to come around. Big thing for him is getting the ball off the ground. Even when he was hitting well in St. Louis, it was hard hit balls that were hit right into the dirt and squeaking through the infield. So the more he elevates, the closer he's going to get back to the bigs. That was good to see the other night. And Mason Wynn is also there. He's somebody, could be an option for the Cardinals in the second half. We know about his 80-grade arm. The offense has been there in fits and starts to begin the year, but he could be an option for St. Louis as well. He's our number 38 overall prospect. So multiple top 100 guys in that game on Sunday. That'll be again at 7:05. Make sure you tune in for free. You don't need a subscription. You can watch it for free on the MLB.com/pipeline homepage or either the Orioles or Cardinals sites. Tyler, what do you got your eye on?
Yeah, I am gonna bandwagon jump onto the guy who everybody is talking about right now in minor league baseball, and that is Elly De La Cruz, the place from which Sam just returned, Louisville, Kentucky. Although the Louisville Bats will be taking on the Syracuse Mets this week, and so not exactly a strictly Louisville focused pick, but Elly De La Cruz, who has been a phenom as of yet, he'll be going up against another top 100 prospect in our MLB Pipeline rankings of Ronnie Mauricio and the New York Mets organization. That series is this weekend as well. You can catch all of that at MILB.TV. And that'll do it for this week's episode of the show before the show. For Benjamin Hill, Sam Dykstra, Josh Jackson, and all the rest, my name is Tyler Maughan. We'll catch you next week.